Hello and welcome to Kathy's Corner. My name is Kathy Holt. I'm a partner and trainer with Stewardship Resources, LLC. Today's video will focus on preparing the fourth quarter 941 federal payroll tax return. I will be covering some important preparation information. I will be giving you a reminder that church payroll is not the same as regular business payroll. And I will also be walking you through 6 steps of reviewing your fourth quarter 941 return before submitting it to the IRS. I think we can all agree that this year is quickly coming to an end. And for most church bookkeepers, that also means that fourth quarter payroll tax returns, along with the W-2 and W-3 form preparations, are added to your already lengthy year-end to-do list. Now, both of these, the fourth quarter 941 and the W-2, W-3 forms, are both generally due on January 31st. But because this day falls on a Saturday in 2026, the due date this time will be February 2nd instead of January 31st. The steps that we will go through today for the fourth quarter 941 payroll tax return can and should be done for the first, second, and third quarter returns as well. It is always important to review the amounts that will flow to the 941 return and not just trust that the return printed from your current payroll and accounting program will be correct. The saying garbage in, garbage out certainly does apply here. If the payroll item set up for your program is not correct, or the Fringe benefit entries are not properly made through payroll, you will have garbage in and garbage out. Now, there are several reasons why the amounts that are showing on the 941 can be incorrect. So I will be giving you some checks and balances as you go through this process that will help you to be confident that the quarterly 941 return that you prepare is correct. Now, before I walk through the review steps, it is very important for me to let you know or to remind you that church and clergy payroll is not the same as normal business payroll. If you did not realize there was a difference and are just trying to do what was always done before, let me encourage you. You do not have to learn every IRS rule regarding church and clergy payroll. You just need to learn the IRS rules for the payroll for your church. Then from that knowledge, how to make sure the payroll items used in your payroll module are set up correctly, including how those payroll items should or should not flow to the 941 federal payroll tax return. Now, at this point, if you are thinking, well, that's why we use a payroll service, so we don't have to learn all that stuff, it is still important to have a basic understanding of church and clergy payroll. And the reasons relevant to our topic today are most payroll services do not have an understanding of church and clergy payroll, even when they tell you that they do payroll for lots of churches. We run into this all the time. Unless the payroll service is specialized in church and clergy payroll and not just do church and clergy payroll, they generally get something wrong. And I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just letting you know what we have experienced with working with church clients. So it's very important for you to know if the payroll service is doing your payroll correctly. They may not be asking you all of the questions they should related to your payroll and benefits. So you also need to know if you are giving the payroll service all the information that they need. Because here's the thing. If the payroll service messes up your payroll, including your returns, and your W-2 and W-3 forms, and the error is caught, the church, not the payroll service, is the one who the IRS considers the responsible party. Okay, let's dive into the review steps you need to do when preparing the quarterly 941 return. The first step I always go through with clients is to determine if there is any taxable income that was not entered through payroll. Now, in the resource section, there is a list of common taxable fringe benefits, as well as a video link that regards that list. So I won't take the time to go over them in detail here. The important thing is that you review this list and ask the questions before you print the quarterly 941 return. Now, if you find taxable income that has not been processed to the payroll module, now is the time to make those corrections. Here's another thing to consider, that if you find that a correction was needed from a previous quarter that you didn't catch in time, you may need to file an amended return, which is a 941X, to amend those quarters. So that in itself is a good reason why it's important to review these steps and review these questions for the first, second, and third quarters. So you make sure each quarter is corrected so you don't have to go back and amend it later. The second step is to have a report that shows all of the payroll items that were used in processing the payroll for the quarter. You will be using this report as a check and balance for the amounts that will show on the 941 payroll tax return. And I'll be showing you an example of one of these reports later. Even though I won't be going over the details of possible taxable benefits, I will give you a list of some typical payroll items that need to be run through payroll. And they would include salary and wages, housing allowance payments. Now, these are taxable for the pastors. They are taxable for self-employment tax. And the only place that these will show is in box 14 of the W-2 form. They do not show on the 941 return. Cash or non-cash gifts, gift cards, love gifts, bonuses. Unfortunately, the IRS does not allow an employer to give tax-free gifts. Wish it was true, but it's not. So those gifts do need to be run through payroll. Unaccountable expense reimbursements, some insurance benefits, some retirement benefits, and there are other taxable benefits that would need to be run through payroll. Continuing with step number 2. Not only will you need the list of all of the payroll items that were used for the quarter, but you'll need the amount for every payroll item that was used in processing payroll for the quarter. Now, each payroll item has its own set of rules. So it is very important that you know the rules for every payroll item in your setup, and that you know how each of those payroll items should or should not flow to the 941, and know how to set each payroll item up correctly in your payroll module. And again, another reminder, church and clergy payroll is a very specialized area of payroll. It is not the same as regular business payroll. If you do not know or unsure of the rules, you need to get some help. You need to get some training. Here is an example of a payroll summary report. Now, the one from your payroll module may look different from this, but the content you need is the same. It will have the quarterly total for every payroll item that was used for the quarter. Now we're going to move on to step 3. In order for this check and balance to work, you need to know how each item listed on this payroll summary report should flow to the federal 941 form. So will each item add or subtract from federal wages? Add or subtract from Social Security and Medicare wages? Should this amount even appear on the 941 form? So now we're going to move on to step 4. So now you're going to make some calculations from the items on this report. You're going to need the total of federal wages, the total of Social Security and Medicare wages, the total of federal taxes withheld, the total of Social Security taxes withheld plus the employer match, and the total of Medicare taxes withheld plus the employer match. Moving on to step 5. You're going to use these calculations that you just made from step 4 to confirm that the amounts that will show on the 941 printed from your payroll module are correct. Now, if the checks and balances between the summary report and the actual 941 return do not match, you need to stop. Don't move forward until you determine what part of the payroll setup or payroll entry needs correction, and then make those needed corrections. Here is the top portion of the first page of a quarterly 941 payroll tax return. Now, this is where the calculations you made from step 5 will show on the 941. So you see here you have the total federal wages. Does it match with your calculations? You have the total federal taxes withheld. You have the total Social Security wages, and generally the total Medicare wages are the same amount. You have the total Social Security taxes withheld plus the employer match. Now that can be a few pennies off. Less than $1, you're okay. Over $1, you need to find out why. Medicare taxes withheld plus employer match can be a few pennies off. Under $1, you're fine. Over $1, find out why. Box 13 is at the bottom of page 1 of the 941 return. Now, if you made deposits through EFTPS, box 13 is where you will enter the total of the deposits that you made for the quarter. Now, if you made the EFTPS deposits for the correct amount, there should not be a balance due. Now, if you are unsure of the deposit rules, they begin on page 30 of Publication 15 Circular E that's in the resource section. Part 2 of the 941 return is found on page 2 of the 941. The example I will be using here is if the church is required to make monthly EFTPS deposits. So the amount showing in month 1, month 2, month 3 boxes is the amount due, not the amount paid. However, if you were making monthly EFTPS deposits, this is another good check and balance to make sure that the amounts that you paid were correct. Important, and I cannot stress how important this is. Only after the review steps have been completed should you submit the 941 return that's printed from your payroll module. If any of the checks and balances don't balance, you need to stop. Determine what part of the payroll setup or payroll entry needs correction and make those corrections. If you are unsure of how to make this check and balance work for you, it is very important for you to get guidance from someone who can make sure that your payroll items are set up correctly, teach you how to make those calculations, and help you to make any corrections if they're needed. So at this point, you might be saying, right, Kathy, who do I call? Well, you are welcome to call us here at Stewardship Resources, LLC. We are specialists in church and clergy payroll. We can help you with your accounting and payroll setup, and we can help you with those corrections if or when they are needed. I hope during our time together today that you have learned why it is so important to have several check and balance steps when preparing the quarterly federal 941 returns. Our focus during this video was on the fourth quarter return, but these same steps can and should be done for the first through the third quarters as well. It can save you from having to go through the process of having to file an amended return. Heads up, my next video will be about preparing the W-2 and W-3 forms. And during that video, you're going to see another reason why making sure that each quarterly 941 return is done correctly. Don't forget, check out the helpful resources in the resource section below. It has been a pleasure to share this information with you today. As always, if you have questions or need help, you are welcome to contact me at the phone number or the email shown below. Please like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, God bless you and have a fantastic day.